folks. Well, we find ourselves on this brisk February day back up in the mountains of Vermont on a piece of old farmland, which has obviously now all grown up back into forest. There's lots of old stone walls out here that were, borders of the fields, and at least one old home foundation that I know of. The people that invited me out here today have owned this piece of land for at least a couple hundred years, which means the things that we find will very likely have been dropped by their ancestors, which makes, even the smallest, most uninteresting thing have quite a bit more value to them. And because this land has been owned by the same people, we have a lot of information about this place. People's names, their occupations, and even a few smaller kind of personal stories, one of which I'm pretty excited about. I'm going to be searching around for a very particular place here. I'll tell you more about that a little bit later. Obviously, there's snow on the ground, a couple inches in some places, but some places like above here, it's completely bare ground. Hopefully all the good stuff is in the places with the bare ground. I'm heading up here to where they told me the first cellar was, and then we're going to do some wandering around looking for this place that I mentioned. All right, well, we've arrived to the cellar that they told me about. I'll show you what it looks like here. You can see there's these kind of ornamental plants still growing around the home. Some of the stonework is still there. And right next to the building, there was a barn, a large one. And as I mentioned, I know the name of the people that lived here, their occupation. They were rye and sheep farmers. I'm not entirely sure, when they built and then when they abandoned, but it's on the map from 1870, so we have to assume they were here at that point. The landowners did tell me that I am by far the first person to metal detect here. They've had quite a few people out here, including one of their own family members. So I don't know what we'll find today, but I'm excited to find out. I'm gonna get my gear out and see what we can find. All right, how awesome is this? I find harmonicas all the time, multiple pieces of the reed plates. I never find this part. This is what would have been, the top or the bottom, and I already took a peek at it, and there's definitely some script writing on there. I'm going to clean this up with a toothbrush, see if we can get a brand name off this, which will then give us a date, hopefully, which is usually impossible with the harmonica parts that I usually find. I washed it off with some water, which is not something I usually do with brass, but there's some silver plating left in there. And I think it says Sosa's Band, B-A-N-D. And at the bottom it says made in Germany. So as soon as I get home, I'll look this up, try to figure out how old this might be. Like I said, I find harmonica parts all the time. They're very, very common in, post 1850. But I love finding these things that were so personal to the owner. You can think about the old stories. Maybe Grandpa played the heck out of this thing, and everybody would sit down in the evening and enjoy listening to him play. You never know. Really cool. Well, I have a bit of a mystery item here. I have some guesses. So the bottom is threaded. I've seen these described as parts of old muskets. The ones that I've found are commonly like a nail shape instead of a screw, and those are drawer hardware. But this, it appears to have a hole all the way through this way as well as this way. So I'm wondering if this is more of a valve, maybe for like an oil lamp, something to that effect. I'm not sure. It's brass. It appears to be decorative. I'm going to guess that it's some kind of valve for liquid. Maybe air. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Could be really anything. So I got a pretty nice iron target, and I went to dig, and I noticed that the thing that my metal detector found is on the surface. This is a leg hold trap. I am not sure the legality of leg hold traps in Vermont anymore.
I feel like you can't use them anymore, but I really have no idea. I'm just trying to kind of make an educated guess on how long this has been out here. It does have a chain, which is then attached to a wire, and the other end of the wire not attached to anything. So, it's not like this is currently being checked, and this is also private property, and I'm going to take a wild guess and say that this does not belong to the current owner. He's not a leg hold trapper type. So I'm gonna pull this out of here and give this to him. And if it happens to be the landowner's buddy who traps up here, then we'll bring it back out. But I'm gonna say that's probably not the case. Cool find anyway.
All right, well, kind of what I expected. We didn't find a whole lot at this first cellar, but as I had mentioned, I'm not the first person to metal detect here. It's been done numerous times over the years, even by one of the landowner's own family members, so I'm not super surprised. But now we're gonna venture off through some of this forest, which at that time was open fields, because, as I said, the landowner told me a bunch of personal stories about this place. One of which was that this family had numerous children, and they were all married on the property. Now that surprised me and prompted me to do a bunch of my own research, because I had assumed, especially back then, everybody was married in a church. But as I found out, especially in these farm communities up in the mountains, the most popular time to get married was this time of year, because there's just too much to do during the growing season. And in the winter, it was just too hard to get all of the family down to the local church, so they would have them in the fields around the home. It's kind of cool to think about. They may have happened on a day just like today. It's supposed to get up almost near 50 today. There's lots of areas where there's no snow at all. Maybe 150 years ago, some folks were out here getting married. So we're gonna wander around, see if maybe we can find this place where the family would have congregated, and maybe they dropped a few things during the celebration.
Well, I just got the most beautiful high tone right here. 83. Oh. I think that's a copper coin. Awesome. Can you see this right here? Let's see. I think so. Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely an old copper coin. I'm gonna get my gloves off and see if we can get this cleaned up. Alright. I got one side cleaned. Alright, can you see that? Got it upside down. 1 cent. This is a large cent, US large cent. I haven't gotten this side cleaned off yet though, but I think this is going to be an older one. Let's see here. Yeah, look at this. 1803 Drake bust. I just rubbed it on my pants a little bit, and you can see that the date is clearly visible. 1803. Well, that's quite a bit older than, the stories that we have attached to this land. I am in a field right now. Probably not dropped during a wedding, but still a great find. Beautiful. Well, hey, let's see if we can find a few more of these. Well, this whole area right here is just completely littered with shell casings. Probably not modern, maybe 50s, 60s. They're very shallow, as was this target. But regardless, it's not a shell casing. I feel like it's a little watch, like a little timepiece. Let me get this cleaned up a bit and maybe see if we can figure out what we have here. I'm gonna say that it's a little watch. This is really kind of old looking, this design. It would have had some gold plating you can see here. This is a really awesome, personal find. I assume maybe it would have been on a chain, and the inhabitant that lived here would have carried it in their pocket every day. Maybe it stopped working and they decided to discard it. Awesome. Well, as you can see, I took my gloves off. It's starting to warm up. It's above freezing now. And we found a place where there's lots of patches with no snow. So we're going to stick around here and maybe we can find some more really personal items like this. Good stuff. Well, because of the warmer weather that we've had this last week, in areas where there isn't any snow, some of these kind of low-lying depressions are just mud pits. And I got a very low target in one of these areas, as you can probably see. And I didn't think it was going to be iron, but it is. Look at this thing. How awesome is that? It's a hammerhead, just a ball of rust. But the thing that struck me is how big the head of this is, the striking side. This is such an interesting shape, and it's actually complete. A lot of times one of these claws is broken off. This is a good candidate to be rehung onto a handle. Really cool. It's going to be heavy carrying around all day, but I love old iron tools like this. Really kind of puts into perspective what they went through and what they used to live up here in the mountains. Alright, check this out. This is a really cool find. When it first came out, I thought maybe it was a coin, but it didn't read high enough on the metal detector to be a coin. But once I saw this hole, I instantly knew what it was. This is one half of a clasp, like a buckle kind of, but there would have been a second piece, would have slipped through here and then locked. By how pretty it is, lots of flowers and stuff on here, I have to suspect it belonged to the lady of the house. I've found a couple of these, and it's always this piece. It's never the smaller piece that kind of goes in here. I'm wondering what the design was on the centerpiece. Feminine buckle.
I was just standing here taking a break, and I got thinking, probably the most asked question from folks who watch these videos is what happens to all of this stuff that I find. Often, people are shocked to learn I always tell landowners everything I find will belong to them. I don't want to keep anything. Now, if they, for some reason, don't want it, I'll certainly take it and give it a good home. I keep detailed notes about where I find this stuff with GPS points, but things like buttons and buckles and even coins, it's going to mean far more to a landowner where maybe it belonged to their ancestors. People often say, like, why would you go through all of that work just to give it all away? And I don't think of this as work. This is fun. This is a hobby. I'm out here for the enjoyment of the outdoors and the forest, doing this, filming. I have as much fun on a day I don't find anything as I do days I find lots of stuff. Now, there has been times where I find something like a gold coin or a large silver coin where I talk to the landowner and rework something else so that I can take that stuff home. But for the most part, we don't find things like that. We find buttons and buckles. Always happy to give that stuff back to the landowner. I'm going to finish my water and we're going to venture off through some more of these fields.
Beautiful target here. You can hear it through my headphones. It's in the 80s. My guess, should I call it? Calling it's bad luck. Whatever it is, it's either a beer can, piece of aluminum, or a piece of brass, either big or round. Let's see here. Bring the camera around a little bit. Oop. Awesome. Look. It's one of these, well, there's lots of different names for them. Sometimes people call them baldric buckles, batwing buckles. It's horse tack, part of a very decorative harness. These would have been shined up brass, gold color. I'm looking at this. I had always suspected that there was one pin, but look, looks like there's a second spinning piece of iron on here. It's fallen off now, but there must have been 2 pins on here, which I guess makes sense for the width of that leather buckle. I always wonder how much things like this would have cost the owner and how much this would have hurt when they lost it. They dropped this, they couldn't find it. Could they continue the work throughout the day? Did they have spares, halt work, and go into town and buy another one? Well, whatever the case, here we are a couple hundred years later, finding it again. Alright, this is, let me turn my headphones off here. A 96. You know, that's never anything good. Theoretically, it could be a giant silver coin, but, you know, unlikely. I'm going to guess it's like a piece of aluminum or a big flat piece of something uninteresting. But we're going to dig it just in case it is a giant silver coin. Yeah, here we go. Just what I thought. Sheet metal. But if it was a silver coin, a big one, that's the number it would be. So we got to dig this stuff just in case. Alright, we got another one. 90. 92. Like I said before, you know, it's almost certainly going to be garbage, but we have to dig it to find out. Oh, I think I found it. I think it's another coin. It's another copper coin. It's not a big silver coin. I don't know why it was reading so high. Looks like it's another large cent. 1 cent. Flip this over. Oh yeah, no, this isn't a later one. Not bad. Alright. Gonna get a date. Try to get the mud off a little bit here. Yeah, I think so. I think it says 1834. Nice. Yeah, that's it's newer than the first one we found. You never know. Could have been dropped by somebody out here attending a ceremony, wedding ceremony. You never know. We are out in the middle of a field again. Either a farmer was out here tending to his rye and dropped a coin out of his pocket, or, I mean, you never know. Awesome. All right, well, hey, I'm going to recheck the hole just in case it was reading as high as it was, because there was more, but if not, we're gonna call this the end of the day. So we're gonna gather up all of our stuff and see what we found today. Great find.
All right, folks. Well, the first metal detecting trip of 2020 has come to a close. You know, because of the snow and the weather that we've had, this is the first time I've been able to come out and do this since November. It's February now. So this was a very nice change of pace. I was starting to develop a bit of cabin fever. You know, I can't think of a better place to be. Beautiful place, wonderful history, direct link to the current owners. We found quite a bit of stuff. I have it all displayed out here on this stump. Let's take a look at it all.
All right, look at all of this stuff. You know, despite people metal detecting here for years and years and years, we still found quite a few things. Starting from the back, we have the leg hold trap, a couple old iron buckles, batwing buckle, an old hammerhead, which is pretty cool. I'm gonna see if I can bring that one home and get it cleaned up and maybe put a new handle on it and see what it may have looked like in the time of use. Harmonica plate, an oil lamp, well, 2 oil lamps, one style and a double wick style. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fragments of spoon. Suspender pieces, our mystery thing. I don't know, maybe a valve of some kind. Let me know what you guys think about that one. Piece of pocket watch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 buttons, and a rivet. This I didn't show. This could either be a back of this pocket watch or potentially a small bridle rosette for a horse harness. Up here, the things I'm most excited about: a very feminine small buckle, what I believe is part of a small pocket watch, and then our 2 large cents, our 2 coins, copper coins today. Was any of this dropped during a wedding ceremony out here in one of the fields? Who knows, but I'd like to think so.
All right, folks. Well, I want to thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to start hiking on out of here, but hopefully I'll see you next time for the next video up here in the mountains of Vermont, and hopefully we don't have to wait till spring.